shifting floor plan. You reach the mountain hotel at dusk, when the sky is the color of slate and the snow holds sound like a cupped hand. The entrance is high and carved, full of moth-soft lamps and a single bell shaped like a pear. No one stands at the desk, but the register is open to a fresh page and the pen is uncapped, as if someone stepped away and will return in a breath. Your room number is written neatly. The map behind the counter shows up a west wing with 3 short corridors and a service stair. It looks simple, like a child's drawing. 2 lines, a bend, a tiny box for the lift. You take the paper and fold it, slipping it into your pocket with the key that already feels familiar, warm from a hand you don't recall, touching yours. The carpet greets you with a faint scent of cleaner and something floral, a suggestion of lilies. You don't see anyone using a cart or a spray. You never will. Your shoes sink half an inch into the weave, and the floor answers with a soft, velvety hush. The first hall is right where the map promised, with sconces that glow like captive moons. You count them as you go, a small private rhythm to keep your steps steady. 1, 2, 3, then a landing where the air feels cooler, as if a window is cracked somewhere you can't see. The lift ticks behind its brass gate. You keep to the stairs because the map says so. 3 flights up, the numbers on the doors become even, then odd, then even again. It's not a trick of anger or panic. It's a small, embarrassing confusion that you try to smooth away with a calm breath. The wall holds a framed photograph of the hotel taken a century ago. In it, there is no west wing at all. You find your floor at last, or what looks like it. The corridor takes a gentle bend that isn't on the map. The air smells faintly of cedar. There's a door marked with your number, but it sits on a wall that, by the map's logic, faces the mountains. Here, a different view waits behind it, though you don't know that yet. Your key slides, the latch catches, and the room breathes open with a low sigh. Inside, a lamp already glows, and the glass on the desk is half full, as if a previous breath condensed there and settled into water. You set your bag down. You try the curtains and find the view looking over a courtyard you didn't pass, a courtyard ringed in arches never mentioned in the brochure. Night distills the building into a softer shape. You step out for ice, a simple errand to thread yourself into the place. The hall has gained an extra door, unnumbered, the brass new against old wood. It doesn't open when you test it, but it's warm under your fingertips. You tell yourself maintenance. You tell yourself a service closet that staff forgot to note. The ice machine hums far away, not on your floor, not on the next. You go down, then up, and return by a route that brings you past the unnumbered door again, which now wears a number, yours. You pause. Your key isn't in your hand. It's in your pocket where you left it. You try your original door instead, and it accepts you without complaint. Inside, the glass is 3/4 full. A tiny shift, a gentle nudge. Nothing you can't explain if you choose not to look at it too long. After midnight, the west wing develops a bend. You feel it rather than see it first, that elastic stretch, like walking on a path that lengthens a finger's width with each step. The stair count changes. You go down 9 steps, land down 9 more. On the return, there are 11, then 8. It's not menacing. It's patient. It's steering you with cushions and curve, the way a hand on a back guides a dancer through a turn. Notice how this one makes distance feel soft. The building adjusts to a path you haven't chosen yet. The carpet carries that gentle, cleaner scent, only now it's joined by something cooler, like stone rinsed by snowmelt. You pass a door with frosted glass, a door the map doesn't name. Your reflection in it is a shade too slow, blinking a half beat after you do. You look away and hear the tiniest click, a latch settling as if thanked for your discretion. Later, you lay the map on the desk and smooth its creases. The lines deny what you walked. You take a pencil and add the extra bend, the stray niche where a chair waited, the detour around a column that felt a touch too close. When you glance back, the pencil marks have thinned as if the graphite sank into the paper. On the margins, a new line appears, neat and pale. Use the second corridor after dusk. You don't remember writing it. It looks like your handwriting. The advice sounds right the way a melody sounds right when it returns. So at dusk, you do. The second corridor is quieter, the lamps dimmed. An extra door rests ahead, unnumbered, warm under your touch. You let it be. On your return, the door has moved a sconce's width to the left, giving you more space to pass, as if the hotel anticipated your shoulder and made room. Moving deeper into the darkness, someone anticipated your route. You're still the only heartbeat you can hear, but the halls feel busy with intentions that keep just outside the light. You walk anyway, because it's gentle, because it offers a way through, and because some part of you recognizes the pattern and welcomes it, like a waltz you haven't learned but already know. Stay too. The anticipating staff morning and the snowlight makes the lobby look taller. The bell sits where you left it, the page still fresh, but a key rests on the counter, tagged with your number in neat ink. It's already warm. You didn't ring. You didn't ask. Still, there it is, pressed into your palm by nobody you can name. Check-in feels rehearsed, except you never said your name aloud. A voice from the office, gentle and low, says it once correctly, and then never needs to say it again. The ledger closes with a soft breath. A folded map appears under your hand, a newer edition with a pale path traced in pencil to your door, around the bend that wasn't there before. The path curves like a suggestion rather than an order, and you follow it because it spares you choices you didn't want to make. Down the hall, a housekeeping cart waits, lined with white towels that still hold the sun from another season. No one stands with it. A linen glides from stack to your armrest when you turn away to hang your coat, and when you look back, the cart has inched a pace forward, aligned to your door like a respectful guest waiting to pass. You think of coffee, and tea arrives instead, set on the table with the lemon already cut the way you prefer, though you never voiced that preference aloud. The cups handle faces your dominant hand. The steam smells like bergamot and a memory you can't quite place. You leave a thank you note on the tray, simple and small. In the afternoon, you find it in your pocket, folded into itself with your handwriting inside. You're welcome. No one knocks. What's quiet here is how names move. You say yours once, and it travels ahead like a lantern. In the elevator, a soft voice from the speaker wishes you a good walk by your name, though you pressed no button and made no plan. In the corridor, a door opens a finger width before you reach it, then waits. You could call this service. You could call it care. It narrows choice until choice feels like a burden you're grateful to set down. You ask the concierge, if that's who it is, A figure in a dark suit whose face you never quite hold. About the ballroom. Is it open for tours? Their head tilts, listening to something just outside your hearing. Not this evening, the answer comes, but the waltz will carry. They slide a small card across the desk. It's blank when you touch it. Later in your room, it has words, in your script. After dusk, use the second corridor. The staff finish your requests before you form them. You think, maybe, a second blanket, and when you return from the hall, it's laid across the foot of the bed, smoothed to the width of your shoulders. You consider asking for directions to the lounge, and a book appears on the desk, the spine cracked at a page that marks a simpler route. It's a book you haven't read, but it's already dog-eared in places you would have paused. At dinner, a table waits by the window you like, though you never sat there. The menu has no prices, only courses, and yet the bill is signed before you can lift the pen, your name in your hand. The server, who may be the same voice from the elevator, sets down a dish you would have chosen, had you chosen. We thought the sea would be on your mind, they say. And later, the wallpaper in the corridor ripples with a faint pattern like waves in moonlight. You return to your room to find your suitcase open, not rummaged, but attended. Clothes you plan to wear tomorrow rest on the chair, aligned to the weather you haven't checked. A small umbrella leans against the desk. It isn't raining. The forecast you didn't see will prove them right after midnight, when a hush of ice dusts the railings. A note in your pocket surfaces when you reach for your key. It's folded twice, written in your hand, a curve in the capital that only you use. The message is brief. Stop at the desk before the walk. You obey the kindness because it feels like common sense. A scarf waits there, soft and dark, warmed over a vent. Your name is stitched inside the hem, thread the color of twilight. What's strange is how the staff know when not to appear. You drop your glove in the hall and stoop to catch it. It slides a palm's breadth forward, just enough to meet your fingers, as if nudged by a breeze. You murmur thanks into the empty air and feel the faintest exhale of cool reply, not from the vent, but from the keyhole of the unnumbered door that watched you pass. The attention here, it's intimate, a pressure that guides without touching. It's a hand at the small of your back in a narrow passageway, turning you gently away from a door you might have tried. It's the elevator arriving before you press, the carriage already headed to your floor. It's room service knocking when you're hungry, but unwilling to admit it, even to yourself. Like a book you haven't read, already dog-eared, your stay arrives with the pages creased where your eyes will rest. You could resist. You don't. Because the care is effortless, and your choices shrink into comfort, and the hotel becomes a mind that thinks for you in a voice you trust. But then, the halls begin to echo with company you can't book. A second cup joins yours on the tray. Footsteps pause when you do, matched but not your own, a polite distance behind. A coat you don't own hangs for a moment on the rack, then isn't there. Names you didn't learn carry along the carpet, like low radio through a wall. The staff don't correct you. They don't confirm. They simply keep finishing your sentences in silence. And you realize the service isn't only for you. It's for the guests who aren't announced, the ones who travel just outside the light. Stay 3, the unregistered guests. The concierge says you're the only guest tonight, said with that soft, practiced calm that leaves no space for doubt. The elevator disagrees. When the brass gate folds and the carriage sighs upward, the display pauses at 3 floors that don't exist on the map, numbers that blink once and go dim, as if someone else asked to step off there. You feel the carriage halt, barely, a settling like a bow to an invisible passenger. Then it carries on, as if nothing happened. You start to notice silhouettes where they don't belong. In the gilt mirror opposite the lift, a pair stands back from the frame, formal and still, as if waiting to be announced. They never occupy the hall itself. Only in reflection do they move, glove, cuff, a tilt of a head that never turns to face you. You step forward to share the mirror and meet only yourself, a half-beat late, as if the glass needs time to remember you. Glimpses gather like lint. A scarf settles across the back of a chair just as you enter the lounge, then isn't there when you turn to hang your coat. A chair scuffs softly in the corner, leaving 2 clean arcs in the dust, the marks of feet pushing back from a table. You check your watch, though there's nothing to be late for. The face ticks, then waits, as if a toast is about to be made. You tell yourself the old perfume is a memory someone forgot to close. But at each stair landing, a thread of scent drifts and thins, violet, then powder, then salt, faint and wild, like wind off a winter sea. It's strange, because you're far from shore. Stranger still, it makes sense to your lungs, and you draw it in like a habit you've never had. They never face you. In the elevator's door, in the window pane by your table, in the polished lid of the piano, no one plays. Their shoulders pass, attentive to a ritual you can't hear. The etiquette lands without speech. 2 empty teacups set opposite each other, a napkin folded with a crease that mirrors your own, a coat check ticket on the counter with a number that resonates like a note you once loved and forgot. You sit by the fireplace because the room wants you to. The second chair angles a fraction toward you with a quiet scrape. You don't look up when it happens. You only feel the room make room. The fire gives a low breath that repeats, a sound like a dancer's count. You let the rhythm carry you, so you won't think about why the rug shows 2 pairs of steps to your seat. What's crazy is how courtesy persists without claim. A door opens a polite inch, waits, then closes with a soft nod to someone who isn't there. A server passes with a tray and dips as if a figure stands between you and the table, offering a space that never fills. You murmur thanks because the impulse is stronger than logic. The air accepts it. You bring your cup to your lips and feel a pause, a shared pause, a held breath not your own. For a moment, your pulse and that other cadence lock, then drift apart like 2 dancers missing a hand. Remember this detail. The misalignment is deliberate. It keeps you from falling into step. You try to book company you can see. The desk smiles in a voice that never reaches the face. Of course. A pencil moves in the ledger. Names form and fade. You recognize none, yet they sound right in your ear, like surnames you heard as a child and never used. Later, in the corridor, you test a door you've never seen. Your key refuses politely. The knob turns a degree and stops, a soft boundary with a human patience to it. As the night deepens, reflections carry more life than the room. A couple crosses the ballroom threshold in the long mirror above the settee, posture elegant, steps aligned to a beat you can't hear. You glance to the actual doorway and find only velvet rope in that impossible shine. The mirror resumes its view of emptiness, but your chest still holds the urge to step aside and let them through. In the reading room, a book open to a page you wouldn't choose rests on the table. The margin hosts a note in a hand not yours, yet somehow known. Don't wait at thresholds, cross or retreat. You close the cover and the spine sighs, as if relieved you understood. Presence without claim becomes the rule. You wake to the distinct pressure of a hand, smoothing a wrinkle at the foot of your bed. Careful, practiced, done for the pleasure of doing it well. You say quietly, "Good night," and the radiator chimes once like a spoon on glass. The etiquette is mutual, even if the bodies aren't. At dawn, the salt returns stronger, threading through the staircase like a tide seeking old stone. You follow it to a corridor that wasn't on your map yesterday, where the wallpaper's pattern repeats one shell too many, then corrects itself when you blink. Doors line both sides, more than the hotel can hold. Each bears a number with a faint double beneath it, as if the first was rubbed out and rewritten in the same hand. As the story drifts onward, their rooms seem to multiply. You don't open any. You don't need to. It's enough to walk, to feel the carpet yield, to count the lamps and find the count unchanged, no matter how far you go. The guests who aren't announced keep their distance. Their courtesy is a boundary and a bridge. They move where you can't, so you can move without colliding. And the hotel holds both truths, like a waltz with a missing beat that still guides every step. Stay for the Coral Sands wing. Off-season, the annex opens like a shell at the edge of the main hotel, a pale corridor with windows that stare toward a winter sea you can't see. The wallpaper has learned the ocean's voice. It hums in the plaster, a low, steady breath that finds the bones behind your ears. You sign the slip left on your desk, your hand already moving, as if the choice was decided last week, and carry your key out into the cooler wing. The doors here refuse, and then yield, swelling with salt, holding a polite resistance like someone meeting your hand and waiting for intention. When they open, the hinges exhale. The floors slope toward the shore, not dramatically, just enough to make your steps feel like the start of a descent. You steady yourself on the rail and feel a dampness, not wet, but kissed by air that traveled some distance underground. Your room number wears the faint double your eye has learned to notice, the ghost of a previous digit brushed away and rewritten. Inside, the carpet is the same deep weave, but under the rug, when your heel presses down, grains whisper. You lift the corner and find a thin drift of sand in a tatty crescent, as if it sifted down from a pocket and settled when you weren't home. You've climbed 4 flights to get here. It shouldn't be possible. It isn't alarming. It's informative. The building leans to meet what calls. The glass is salted, not frosted, not fogged, salt breathed onto the pane. Your finger traces a line, and the crystal answers with a dry, soft squeak. You taste it without thinking. The ocean belongs to you for a second, mineral and cold, and then the air takes it back. You wipe the spot. It returns in the shape of your gesture, a ghost of your motion pressed into the window. Corridors hum like distant surf. The lights slide bright, then dim with a rhythm that isn't electrical, it's tidal. You learn the timing without trying. 3 breaths of hush, a lift, a small wait. You pass a door with a splice of daylight at the threshold, though. The hall has no exterior exit. The slit smells like kelp left to dry, green and clean, a memory from summers you watched other coasts. Watch for balcony shadows when clouds erase the moon. The annex's long windows reflected the hall, and when night folds in, you see what's behind you more clearly than what's ahead. A silhouette leans against a railing that doesn't exist indoors, the shape patient, shoulders turned to the not quite sea. You don't look back. You let the reflection carry the fact of it for you. The figure lifts a hand, not a wave, a measure. 1, 2, 3. The lights rise on the third, then sink again, as if the hum obeys. You test the balcony door, though the card warned you. It refuses with courtesy. The lock turns a fraction, stalling not with force but with understanding, as if to say, not now. You accept, because you've learned the cost of thresholds. The door cools under your palm. A faint tremor runs through the handle in time with the low voice in the walls. If you pressed, it would give. You don't. Nature slides in, and the building leans to meet it. In the stairwell, you feel the faintest grit under your palm, as if a breeze has been walking the steps, carrying news. The fire door swings slower than it did in the main house, caught by currents you can't see. From below, a sound like a rope rubbed on stone rises and falls. You picture a mooring, a pier, wood that doesn't belong to a mountain hotel. The analogy helps. The annex is tied to something just out of sight, and it rides that tether with quiet grace. At the end of the hall, a service alcove wears a thin layer of salt at waist height, a line drawn by patience. Someone, or something that behaves like someone, wiped it once. The mark remains beneath the clean, like a tide line on a wall. You drag your finger through it and leave a message only the room will read. Tomorrow, the line will be higher by a fingernail. The pattern escalates, but gently, the way a waltz turns tighter without hurrying. You open the wardrobe and find a towel that shouldn't be damp and yet is, edges crisp, center cool, as if it wrapped a shoulder recently. Two hangers knock together when you step back, a little clack like pebbles meeting in swirl. You hear whispers that aren't words, just the dry rasp of paper rubbing paper, the wallpaper speaking at sea to itself. The shell motif repeats perfectly, then once adds a spiral slightly off, a variation you wouldn't notice unless the annex had already taught you to listen. What does the ocean want here? Nothing hungry, only acknowledgement. The hotel obliges. The doors swell to keep the rhythm. The lamps swing a fraction warmer when the hum deepens. A draft lifts the corner of the rug and sets it down again in time. You align your steps to the slope and find that moving with it is easier than against. The room rewards you. When you return from the hall, the salt on the pane spells a curve that matches your stride. You sleep with the balcony shut and the curtain drawn, and the orchestra you still haven't seen finds its missing beat somewhere below you, where the annex meets its invisible pier. The floor almost imperceptibly rocks once. You let your breath follow. Meanwhile, the ballroom keeps playing a dance you didn't attend, and the sea hums through the walls like a rehearsal you've been hearing your whole life. Stay V, the ballroom that never opens velvet rope, polished brass, that impossible shine. Every night the ballroom sits sealed, as if light itself can't find an excuse to slip under the door. The plaque beside the frame lists no hours, only the name, ballroom, as if that's enough explanation for why your feet pause each time you pass. The staff never says it's closed. They say nothing at all, and the silence feels like the correct attire you forgot to wear. At 2 a.m., the music drifts. A waltz, patient and old, with a breath held where the beat should fall. You wake with the sense that you've been counted in, the way a hand on your shoulder might guide you up from sleep. You stand in the hall, bare feet on carpet, facing the rope that keeps its own quiet rules, and the melody sets your heart to its slow measure. 1, 2, wait, 3. You count steps outside and the floor answers. It's unmistakable, that faint, responsive give beneath the carpet, boards acknowledging your weight, with a courtesy you didn't know wood could learn. You take 3 paces, and the floor beneath takes 3 with you, as if the room beyond mirrors your intent through the wall. You change direction. The give follows, so close but not touching, a parallel partner staying just beyond the velvet line. You try the handle gently. It's cool, not locked in the old way with iron certainty, but held by something like etiquette. The knob yields a sliver, stops, and that missing beat opens in your chest again, a pocket of time big enough to hold a question. You don't pull, you rest your palm there, reading the temperature the way you've learned to read the radiators and the cards and the salt. Behind the wood, a hush, the hush of space ready to be seen. You sit in the alcove across from the rope and wait. The waltz resumes where you left, not from the beginning, but from the breath you took when you stepped away. Notice how this one bends time without flourish. No rewind, no loop, just a patient hand lifting the melody back to the exact moment you'll recognize, as if the song lives on your side of the door, not in the hidden room. The carpet's pattern here is lusher, the vines bolder, the flowers darker in the dye, as though the thread drank a deeper color. When the music swells, the petals seem to tilt, a visual beat that your body chooses before your mind does. You find yourself shifting your shoulders, small, polite breaths of movement, to mark the turns you aren't taking. The corridor accepts this rehearsal, and the baseboard ticks once. In metronome, no one wound. Performance without audience, yet you're in the program. You feel it in the way your name sits on your tongue, wanting to be announced. You feel it in the elevator's habit of opening to this floor at midnight, regardless of the button you press. You feel it in the way your card from earlier has acquired a new, faint line in your hand. When you hear the third refrain, turn. You try it. First refrain, a sweep of strings, a suggestion of space opening. Second, the room inside arranges itself in your imagination, pillars and lake-dark floor and chandeliers that don't flicker. They breathe. Third, you stand, turn in the corridor's narrow grace, and the boards beneath your bare feet echo the pivot with a soft, enthusiastic assent. No clatter, no show, just the echo of being met. Cool air brushes your shoulder, the sensation of a door ajar behind you that isn't. You look back because the body does that, even when the mind is trained. Nothing. Still, the draft carries the shape of a crowd, not the noise, just the pressure. Bodies remembering how to leave space for other bodies. You step to the side without thinking and find yourself aligned to a path that curves around the rope, never crossing, always near. You whisper an apology to the closed room. It answers in texture. The nap of the velvet deepens under your fingers, taking the imprint of your touch, holding it for a breath, letting it go. The brass glows warmer, as if your skin's heat brought the temperature up by a careful degree. You are not unwelcome. You are simply not expected to enter. The difference matters. It keeps the dreads soft. On your third night, the missing beat lands. It happens while you're mid-turn, counting with your heel. The pause fills with a gentle, weightless note, neither higher nor lower than the rest, just certain, the way a steady hand feels at your back when a floor dips. The corridor breathes with you. The rope stirs, the tassel describing a small circle, a nod you'd call approval if you were the kind of person to name things aloud. You consider, again, pressing the handle. You don't. The door has offered its entire language without opening. The measured draft, the listening air, the floor answering, the melody's exact memory of where you stood when you last left. You have everything but the spectacle, and spectacle would be a cruelty here. The performance is for those who exist in reflections and salt, and for the building that holds them. You are permitted to attend from the threshold that isn't a threshold. But wait, someone above you is awake in your empty suite. The toy chime cadence rises through plaster, 2 notes and a tap-tap, then the soft rush of water as if a basin has been turned and set at an angle you recognize. The waltz does not stop, it accommodates. The corridor's air carries both patterns without strain, blending them into a single, steady will. You listen closely, a little colder now at the nape, and the ball, hotel kind as ever, keeps time for you. Stay 6, the whispering suite above. No one checked in, papers confirm it. The ledger line beside your floor stays clean, your name alone, the column of keys unbroken. And yet the ceiling insists there's life above you, a soft routine that knows yours too well to be mistaken for pipes. It begins with the toy chime, 2 bright notes, a tiny interval like a child's door hanger tapped by a passing hand. Then water runs, not the coarse surge of a main, but the careful tilt of a basin, a polite ribbon that starts, steadies, and stops as if timed to breathe. You look up. Plaster looks back, pale and smooth. Nothing drips. The radiator, ever courteous, clicks once to acknowledge that you heard. You test the office. The concierge's voice arrives from the side room, even and mild. No arrivals tonight. The register confirms. A map with your own pencil marks whispers beneath your palm. Still, as you climb the stair to prove a point to your body, the landing above meets you with a locked door where the corridor should continue. A panel painted to look like wall, cool to the touch, unpersuaded by your knock. Back in your room, the rhythm resumes. Tap tap, like the lightest steps parading past the crown of your bed, from headboard to window and back again, never impatient, never hurrying. You hold your breath to see if it follows. It does. For 3 passes, your inhale lines with its long pause perfectly, a mirror so gentle it could be coincidence. The 4th time, the taps come a half-beat late, a nudge that says, kindly, don't make a habit of this. You place a glass on the bedside table and mark the water line with your thumb. When the taps reach the window's edge, the air cools by a degree, your skin telling the story your eyes can't. The line rises the thickness of a hair. Morning will deny it. Night offers proof that vanishes with light. The stain arrives next. A ring forms on the ceiling, faint as breath on glass, a pale halo no wider than a plate. It blooms while you watch, not darkening so much as deciding to exist. You think of the annex of salt finding pain. This is similar and not. No grain, no grit, only a memory of dampness. At dawn, the ring fades. Your neck remembers where not to rest your eyes. You try an old trick. You align your routine to what's above. Brush when the ribbon runs, sit when the tap-tap begins. The sound pauses with you at first, polite. Then it learns you and sets a step ahead, guiding your timing the way a firm hand changes a turn. When you resist, the chime brightens, a small laugh. When you follow, the room warms, as if you've pleased a teacher. On the second night, you slide a note under your door addressed to the suite that isn't there. A simple line in your hand. If you're awake, I am too. The corridor accepts the paper. Later, the card returns under your mat, unchanged, but your handwriting bears one tiny correction. A comma you never place now sits where it would have in the past. The edit is careful, affectionate. Someone knows your habits in 2 eras. You lie very still to learn the pauses. Your breath and that other rhythm meet, drift, then are pulled into deliberate misalignment, like partners crossing in a figure to avoid the collision the house rules warned you about. You feel it as a soft hand on your shoulder, not pressure, just direction. Turn now. Set the glass here. Stand when the water stops. Your body relaxes into instruction you didn't ask for and don't resent. At 3, the faucet upstairs opens full, a generous pour as if a bath has been drawn. You picture a wide porcelain slope, claw feet that never touch the floor. The sound carries the weight of that image without offering proof. You whisper low, "Good night," to the ceiling. The toy chime answers with a single soft agreement. It isn't mimicry, it's conversation cut to a courtesy's length. You consider knocking at the hidden door again. Instead, you set your chair beneath the crown of the bed and face the window, letting the taps make their pass above your head, letting the corridor's faint draft trace the line of your cheek. The pattern resolves, your routine mirrored, then directed, until it becomes a braid, your breath, the chime, the water, plaited tight enough that you can sleep inside it. The sensory thread holds to the end, tap-tap like a child's steps, precise, light, finishing at the bed's crown and pausing as if to look down at you. A kindness, a check, not a haunting. You close your eyes, and the ceiling learns your rhythm. Your lungs learn the ceilings. Somewhere beyond both, the ballroom lifts its refrain, and the missing beat waits, patient, for you to turn. Stay 7, the corridor that returns you. The long hall announces itself by restraint. It curves so gently your eye calls it straight, and yet your body leans a fraction as if a shoreline is near. You start walking. The sconces seem new, then familiar, then new again, because you never pass the same one twice. Their glass is cut into petals that don't quite match, and each throws a different oval of light onto the carpet's vines. You test the loop with a small trick, count 7 breaths, place a finger on the seam of the wallpaper, walk on, return, and the seam has shifted a palm's width left, as if the hall corrected the mark to keep things tidy. You drop a note to be sure. A square of hotel stationery, folded once, set flat against the baseboard where the curve begins to gather. You don't sign it. The paper is thick enough to remember your thumb. You walk until the curve suggests an end, and then very kindly refuses to provide one. Doors pass in steady intervals. One bears your number and then doesn't. Another carries no number and later wears 2, faint, layered like old paint, reading through new. When you circle back, if circle is the word for a path that never turns, The note sits on your desk, sealed with your name, your hand. Inside, a sentence you didn't write and have always written, "You're nearly there. Watch the rugs. They align to steer your steps, not your eyes." The motifs bend into shallow chevrons that urge your weight toward the inside rim. When you resist, the pile thickens just enough to make the outside edge feel like walking uphill. The walls hold their breath when you follow, relieved in a way only plaster can show. No sound, just a warmth you didn't notice becoming absent when you stray. You stop at a junction that pretends to be new. Both choices are the same corridor wearing different lamps. The card's earlier counsel returns without ink. Don't wait at thresholds. You choose. The lamps approve, brightening a hair, and a pressure behind your shoulder lifts, like a hand no longer needing to guide. The smell of rain indoors persists, though the night outside stays clear. It pools near the floor, a coolness that gathers in corners and then is redistributed by your passage. You feel useful, a courier for the weather the hotel keeps for itself. On the wall, a photo you haven't seen before shows the hall as a straight line. The silvering at the edges ripples like heat over a road. Meanwhile, the floor beneath the carpet makes its own minute decisions. When you quicken, it lengthens by softness. When you slow, it shortens with relief. You learn to move at the tempo the house favors. The return begins to happen without you noticing. Notice how handles angle. Every knob you pass settles with its stem pointing modestly along the curve, not out into the hall, like faces turned politely toward the flow. Keys in your pocket find their rhythm again, a light tap at each step. The double key knocks when you're off balance and quiets when you're aligned. You let it tell you how to place your weight. You've been resisting loops your whole life. This one returns you without scolding. Halfway to the place that's everywhere, a door opens a hand's width and waits. No draft moves through. The opening is an idea more than a gap. Inside, a stripe of dark carpet leads in, matching the hall's pattern exactly, as if the room is a continuation rather than a destination. You don't cross. The rule holds: cross or retreat. You retreat. The door closes with no sound at all, the pure courtesy of wood meeting wood without friction. The hall thanks you with a deepening of the rain smell, a new green note, faint as mint. You test the impossible. You mark the sconces. The first, with a petal chipped like a crescent moon, you touch twice. The third with a bubble caught in the glass. You breathe on. You walk on, eyes forward, trusting the curve. When a chipped crescent returns, it isn't the same crescent. The chip sits in an opposite petal, a mirror taught to misremember. You laugh under your breath because the joke is kind, and you let the hall have it. The pattern here is closure, not trap. Every detour folds toward one room, but not with force. The push is like fingers closing a book you finished anyway. The unregistered move alongside you, still not facing, their reflections obeying the bend. A teacup sits on a console where no console stood before, steam without heat, a minor continuity error that comforts more than confuses. You don't stop. You don't hurry. The music you still can't hear keeps time somewhere behind your ribs. At last, if last applies when the hall can always extend, the carpet thickens to the depth you've learned as arrival. The air lifts, smallest possible shift, like a lid eased from a pot. The scent of rain fades, leaving stone, polished and cool. Your door presents itself with no drama, Not the number you carried, not the ghosted double, but the shape of belonging you've been walking toward since you stepped into the curve. The knob is cool, the sister behind you warm. Your key turns as if it's always been meant to, and the corridor politely returns you to where you were going before you knew it existed. Finale. The kept room. The door that wasn't on the map waits like a thought you almost remember. Your key turns smoothly, a practiced gesture returning to its source. The latch accepts you with that low, careful sigh you've learned to trust. Inside, the air holds its breath for 1 second, then releases, the temperature settling to a calm that feels like a cool hand across your forehead. Your suitcase already rests by the wardrobe, placed at the precise angle you prefer without ever having decided. The bed is turned, corners tucked with that quiet confidence the staff practice even when they're nowhere to be seen. A glass on the nightstand sits half full, the meniscus steady, as if it has been waiting for your throat to find it without asking. You didn't pour. You're not surprised to find your own reflection in the window a half-beat late, accepting the room as if it has accepted you. On the desk, a small frame holds a photo of the view you haven't had yet. Sea gray sky, a break in the cloud, the suggestion of a gull in the far right corner you'll only notice later. You pick up the frame, and the salt at the pane blooms into the same shape, mapping what morning will show you when the curtain opens. It's not a trick, it's a courtesy. The rug I'm giving you tomorrow at tonight's gentler pace. Watch the clock. The hands tilt as if the face is slightly bowed, then right themselves. The minute lifts, skips a narrow step, waits, patient, until your breath matches its new interval. When you exhale, the hand obliges, sliding forward with a sound too faint to be called a tick. It's the same rhythm that moved under the ballroom's carpet. It's the same tempo that taught your ceiling to breathe. You test the drawers. One holds a scarf that matches the thread inside your coat's hem, folded into the exact square the staff favor. Another keeps a thin stack of cards, blank until your thumb drags across them. Ink rises where you touch, letters forming in your hand without your help. Rest now. The hall will continue without you. You lay the card down. The handwriting fades to the pale of memory and persists there like a watermark. The room is a synthesis more than a surprise. The unregistered courtesy is here in the second glass, the space at the foot of the bed smooth as if someone stood there to see if you wanted another blanket. The architecture's soft adjustments are here in the way the window lightens by a shade when you look toward the desk and darkens kindly when your eyes rest. The staff's anticipation is here in the towel warming on the rail, in the book open to the right paragraph for the thought you haven't had yet. You sit on the edge of the bed and the mattress meets you, not with the spring of a stranger, but with the memory of your weight. You've never been here. You've always been here. The room makes both feel true without forcing you to choose. A folded program lies beneath the glass, the paper thick, the print small, the title simple, Waltz. You know the missing beat has been saved for this. You stand because the program makes standing feel like the polite answer. The orchestra, still unseen, lifts from the floorboards with no more drama than a breath. The first refrain arrives like a corridor opening. 1, 2, space, 3. You place your palm an inch from the wardrobe's polished wood. The grain hums along your lifeline, a low, delightfully serious tone you feel more than hear. You step once, twice, and the minute hand tilts and waits, then lands perfectly when your foot does. You've been counted in all evening without knowing it. Outside the window, nothing moves, and yet the glass suggests the arc of a turn, the way streets curve in old towns where the map learned to bend around stone. The salt traces brighten like chalk at a dance master's heel. You follow that curve with your shoulder, and the curtain breathes outward as if giving you room to pass. The air cools at your back like a door ajar that isn't. You don't look. You don't need spectacle. The room is the dance. Staff, guests, and halls fold into one quiet will, and your stay reads itself out loud without words. The rules you learned arrive as instinct. Don't wait at thresholds. Cross or retreat. You cross the small gap between bed and window, and the floor answers, lifting a finger's width to meet your step, setting you down with the gentlest of approvals. Your keys rest on the table, silent now, their metronome satisfied. You lie down, not because you must, but because the bed is an invitation phrased in a language you now speak. The clock's hand leans toward the pause that's been walking beside you since the first corridor. You place your palm on the coverlet. The fabric warms to your skin and stays. Somewhere beneath the floor, the orchestra finds the missing beat, and it lands as softly as rain absorbed by moss. No dramatics, no crash, just certainty. A breath moves along the crown of your bed, a child's light steps concluding their patrol, pausing to look down without expectation. The ceiling's faint halo decides not to bloom tonight. The wallpaper's sea hushes to a tide at slack water, holding still enough that the shells in the pattern look up. You take one slow breath in and a slower one out. The room tilts the minute to meet you, then lets it go. Let the darkness close softly around the edges. The hotel will keep walking while you rest.